2016, the time is 7 o'clock. Please call the roll.
President Sells.
Here.
Trustee Valerie.
Here.
Trustee Collins.
Here.
Trustee Lumsden.
Here.
Trustee Pollard.
Here.
Trustee Selby. Not with us tonight. Oh, Trustee Hamilton.
Here.
Village Manager Francis.
Here.
Village Attorney Molina.
Here.
Also present Village Clerk Haley.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome to everyone who is here this evening and those watching at home. If you would like to address the board at any point this evening, I ask that you recognize the President, make your comments from the podium so that folks at home can get to see what you have to say. First up is public comment. Would anyone like to address the board? Mr. Gallagher.
Alex Gallegos on behalf of the Lions Club and
Joanne Cozy, Lions.
good evening, Mr. President, trustees, those in attendance, and to those watching at home. Sir, we come before you and the village board on behalf of the Lions Club tonight. We have a very special announcement. We are here to announce the Person of the Year. She has served as a member of RAW, the Caucus, Junior Women's, and the Riverside Brookfield Education Foundation. 2016 Person of the Year is none other than Jennifer Newman White. A dinner will be held in her honor sometime in late August, probably go September, but late August, at the Riverside Golf Club. Information will be put on our Facebook page and on our website, so look for that on social media. Anything else to say? Well, then that's all we have to say. I'll be back in June to talk about some of the chamber events, cruise nights, and the block party, etc. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher, and congratulations to Ms. White, a very well-deserved honor. Next up are reports of village officers. My report this evening, I just want to encourage everyone to come out this weekend for Riverside Arts Weekend. The times are Saturday 10 to 5 and Sunday 10 to 4. You've probably seen the tandem bicycles around town that have been done by some local artists. Those bicycles will be auctioned off at 3 o'clock on Sunday. It's always a wonderful event. The weather looks great. So we hope everybody comes out to go to the park and enjoys the walk. And that is all I have. Next up is the village manager's report. Ms. Francis.
I have a couple of items. First of all, we have confirmed with BNSF that the railroad crossing over on Long Common and Riverside Road will be closed on June 3rd through the 10th. The police department has a follow-up meeting with them next week to confirm this closure and also work out logistics with BNSF, but it will be closed. We did receive a confirmation to both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. So people should plan accordingly. We'll post information on the village website and also send out an e-flash once we have additional information from BNSF.
How will people get when they're dropped off on the train? How will they, if they live on this side of the tracks?
They'll probably have to go over on Cowley on that side. If they are going to be utilizing the train, the commuter, there is a way to get onto the platform from the one parking lot, and I'm forgetting the lot number, but it's over on the east side of Long Common. Tom, do you know what that is?
Jessica, is it close to vehicular and pedestrian?
Yes, they have confirmed that.
Yeah, they have notified us vehicle and pedestrian traffic. We have a Monday morning, afternoon, 2 p.m. meeting. The Deputy Chief Crew will be there at Bailey to work, and the company they're hiring, BNSF is hiring to do the traffic control. We're meeting at the site on Monday afternoon, and we'll have more available at that time. But it is going to be, they said pedestrian and vehicle, and they've hired a Roadway Services, Inc., I think, the company to handle the logistics for pedestrian and vehicle traffic. But we'll be directly involved in that. So after Monday afternoon, we should have a lot more details as to what that'll look like.
We'll make sure we flash that. Of course, we'll also notify the press as to
well, that shuts down like the parking lots, anyone that's in the park. I mean, that's serious. Anyone in the first division that takes the train, anyone that parks in our parking lot, anyone that parks on the street and pays for parking, that's a major.
Yeah, they notified us they have a major project that must be done at the Long Common Crossing. There's some issue there that requires that for that long period of time. Most of the communication has been by phone or email. Monday will be the first time we meet at the scene to get more on-scene information.
And apparently what we're told too, Director Bailey had mentioned this to us, is that they're doing major projects throughout the BNSF line. So I believe that Western Springs also had, I don't know if it was closed as complete as ours will be, but there is major projects going on along the BNSF line.
We should at least get some, the sandwich board signs and put them on this, by the tracks, by the train station a week before, so people know that what's going on. Because the e-flash is not going to hit everyone. As much as everyone loves to read the landmark, that doesn't hit everyone.
They've committed to 2 signboards in addition to ours, the big signboards. I think what they want from us is where we want them located, what type of signage, because there'll be a lot of vehicle traffic pushed towards Collie and probably First Avenue. And I would think it'd be similar to when they closed Harlem, except for we won't have the truck traffic. Harlem had the semi-traffic. We won't have that at the Long Common, but you will have a great deal of vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic that will have to be rerouted. And we may even they may even employ somebody there, because part of our issue was we want to make sure people don't want to try to go around when they're not supposed to anyways. That won't be a problem with vehicles because they'll put the type 3 barricades, they said. But pedestrians, they do the best they can, and then they hope that the signage tells pedestrians do not cross there.
Even a sign back on the Berry Point Bridge telling people that will be closed from, because that's a lot of people come in there.
I agree. So we'll have direct input
get.
on Monday, along with the Public Works Director will also be at that meeting.
Thank you.
I have 2 other additional items in your packet, and on the consent agenda is a request for approval of a resolution for our village website. I know that improving communications and improving transparency with the public was part of one of our goals for this year, and so we did a request for proposal for website redesign and development services. We received a number of proposals. Civic Plus was the one that we had selected as being the top vendor based on the options that they afford staff with regard to drag and drop, increased communications, fully responsive site. They're all inclusive. And also, we would be getting a redesign within 4 years, so that we're making ourselves, we're always enhancing our communication with residents. So we have that on the consent agenda. And finally, I wanted to make mention of Consolidated Dispatch. There was an article that was in the Riverside Brookfield Landmark recently. Staff has been actively working with North Riverside and Brookfield to consolidate our dispatch functions. This is something that was mandated through the state, and so we've been progressing along. We will be having an intergovernmental agreement presented to the board at the next board meeting. All 3 communities will have this IGA that will be presented to each respective boards. Chief Weitzel has been heavily involved. I have Chief Buckley, Deputy Chief Kroll, and Deputy Chief Sherman has also been involved. In addition, I also want to thank them for attending all the meetings and being actively involved in this process. Also our dispatchers as well that have provided some very meaningful feedback as we go through this process. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you very much. Next up is the approval of the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be discussed separately?
I would like just to have L removed, and we can discuss it later when we get to the traffic study. I can explain why I'm removing it then.
Any objection? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion, a second, to approve A through M with the exception of L. Motion by Ms. Hamilton, second by Ms. Collins. Please call the roll.
Trustee Valerie.
Aye.
Trustee Collins.
Aye.
Trustee Lumsden.
Aye.
Trustee Powell.
Aye.
Trustee Hack? Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, reports of departments, commissions, and trustee liaisons. Are there any liaison reports this evening? Nope. Hearing none, we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. I would ask the board's permission to reverse their order because we have a representative from KLOA here this evening. So first, is that okay with everyone? So first up is a resolution of the Village of Riverside, Illinois, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract for a village-wide traffic safety study in an amount not to exceed $45,000 and a contract for traffic engineering services with Koenig, Lindgren, O'Hara, Abuna, Inc., KLOA, to be provided to the Village of Riverside. So I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve, and then we'll have discussion. Motion by Mr. Lumsden, second by Ms. Hamilton. Manager Francis.
Okay, I will provide a brief overview. If the board will recall, back in 2014, we had budgeted for a targeted traffic study, and as part of the discussion during fiscal year 2015, it was decided that perhaps we wanted to broaden the scope and be inclusive of the village as a whole, and allow the traffic engineering firm to do a comprehensive village-wide traffic safety study. So while we're preparing for fiscal year 2016, we actually budgeted $75,000 for this. On February 2nd, 2016, village staff issued a request for qualifications for traffic engineering services and for a village-wide traffic safety study. In April, Chief Weitzel assembled a panel of village staff, Trustee Lumsden, and also our Safe Environment Commission Chairperson Megan, to discuss the qualifications of the 11 firms that had submitted their qualifications for consideration of this project and also for traffic engineering services moving forward. As part of that process, we then narrowed it down to our top 3, and then in discussions narrowed down who our final qualified candidate was, and I began to negotiate pricing of this particular agreement, in addition to Chief Weitzel doing background, and then also working with KLOA with regard to the scope. And so before you is not only a resolution to approve an agreement with them for the village-wide traffic safety study not to exceed $45,000, but also for them to provide traffic engineering services for the next year to renew on an annual basis for the next 4 years, locking them in for a not to exceed amount of their annual rates, not to go up by 5% each year.
Do we have a representative here?
Yes, we do. We have Michael Worthman from KLOA, who we've worked with directly throughout this entire process. And he can provide you some background, the approach, and his discussions with Chief Weitzel. Chief Weitzel is also here to address any questions that the board may have.
Mr. Worthman, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Michael Worthman with KLOA. As Jessica said, we were selected to put together a proposal for you for the village-wide safety study. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to work with you. Working with Jessica and the chief, we came up with a scope of services that we'll give you a pretty thorough evaluation of the existing transportation system within the village. It's really a 3-phase study where the first phase is a significant data collection effort where we will go out and inventory the physical and operating characteristics of the transportation system. This includes, actually doing field observations out there, looking at everything, observing everything. We're proposing to conduct daily traffic counts and speed surveys at 27 locations within the village, throughout the village. We're going to do intersection traffic counts in the downtown area at 5 intersections along the Long Common Riverside corridor. This will include pedestrian and bicycle counts, so we get a good understanding of what's going on downtown. This will be done during the weekday morning and evening peak periods. They won't be daily counts. It's just during those critical time periods. And we're going to do some license plate surveys at about 7 locations, once again during the morning an evening peak period to try to get a handle on, the cut-through traffic through the village and so forth. The second phase is the evaluation phase. We'll go through and look at all this data, try to identify any issues and concerns that you have, what we see, streets that have higher volumes than they should have, streets that speeds are higher than you would expect. We'll look at cut-through issues. We'll look at all of your accident data, see if there's any hot spots, which we would say, where you're having high accident locations. We'll also look at your pedestrian and bicycle facilities. Just look at the safety aspects within the village and see what we can do to enhance all of this. One of the big aspects is to work with staff to hear what the existing problems are, where you feel your problems are, so we can specifically look at those. The third phase is the recommendation phase. We'll come up with a number of recommendations to enhance the transportation system. This will include developing a functional classification system for the downtown area. You already have one, but we'll take a look at it for the whole village. Coming up with intersection traffic control for the whole village. We'll take a look, see what kind of traffic control. Do you need some changes? Do you need some enhancements? School signage. We'll look at the signage around the school, the warning signs. Is that appropriately designed? Do you have the right one? Does it meet state and federal guidelines? Look at pedestrian and bicycle circulation, see if there's anything we can do to enhance that. And then look at any traffic volumes and speed issues. We'll come up with traffic calming measures if you have issues, and locations where these traffic calming measures will be. We'll give you options, because when you put in traffic calming measures, there's a cause and effect. So you really want to evaluate it as a board as to what you want to do on a certain street and what ramifications that has on the other streets and so forth. But we'll give you a good understanding of what's going on in the village, evaluate it for you, and then provide you recommendations.
So I'll have an initial question before the trustees come in. So I noted that you're planning on starting the data collection in September.
Yeah, we've talked about it, given the construction that you have and that summer's approaching very quickly. We would prefer to do the data collection maybe after Labor Day, the month of September. What I can do, I know one of the big issues is the traffic control and procedures you implement around the parks during special events. We can come out over the summer, take a look at that, observe that, get our notes and all of that. So we can start portions of it, but the real thrust of the study won't begin until the fall.
And when would the recommendation phase be reached, do you expect?
We would probably need, we'd do all the data collection in September and then probably go through it all in October. What we like to do is, once we get all the data, come up with some preliminary recommendations, sit down with staff and let them know what we're looking at, what we're thinking, hear what they have to say, and then go back and get the recommendation. So, maybe early November, probably be a good time.
Okay, excellent. Trustees, do you have other questions for Mr. Worthman? No? Well, we look forward to this. It's been a long time since we've done a comprehensive look at our traffic, so this is we anticipate.
No, I look forward to working with you, and thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Worthman. With that, I ask you to please call the roll.
Aye. Trustee Collins. Aye. Trustee Thompson.
Aye.
Trustee Powell.
Aye.
Trustee Hamilton. Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is a resolution adopting special events event facilities rental policies and procedures for the train station, scout cabin, and water tower facility. Ms. Francis?
Thank you. So we tried to, as a group, staff tried to track down exactly when the previous policies were implemented. We know they're at least 10 years old. We're not sure of the exact date in which they were previously drafted. I don't know if it was necessarily memorialized at a board level previously. However, we've noticed that an increase in requests at both the train station and at Scout Cabin for rentals. And our greatest concern is ensuring that the village is recovering their costs. Specifically at the train station, we noticed that if there are certain requests that require benches to be moved around, the village isn't recovering our costs for the fee that we're charging. Because with Public Works, per their union contract, if it's over the weekend or if it's overtime, you have mandatory 2 hours before the event, and if they need to come back thereafter, we have another mandatory 2 hours of overtime, depending on how many individuals are also there. So that was the reason why we established or are recommending the rate structure for the train station. For Scout Cabin, it's been discussed by the Parks and Rec Board previously, and they have provided the rate structure that they've been utilizing as well. Both policies are very similar in nature. Really, the changes in the two are the different rate structures. So for example, the train station, we have $100 per hour for Riverside residents and for non-for-profit groups. And for non-residents, it's $125 per hour. And basically, we came up with that particular calculation based on our costs. If we have to have 2 Public Works employees, basically, we're just recovering our costs at that point. It's not as though we're deriving any direct benefit. With regard to Scout Cabin, you'll notice that there are varying classifications that the Parks and Rec Board have implemented, and that is based on both their costs and also the practice of allowing certain not-for-profit groups to use it as a reduced fee. Parks and Rec activities, obviously, there wouldn't be any charge, and then they have different varying units. Per unit is per hour for Parks and Rec. And so that has been their calculation previously. I'll entertain any questions that the board may have with regard to this, but basically this began a few months ago as a discussion of we should probably have some policies in place memorializing our procedures and practices. In addition to that, making sure that the village recovers their costs for personnel overtime related to rentals.
So on the train station, it's a per hour charge, and on the Scout Cabin, is this just per event charge?
Per unit, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. A unit consists of any 6-hour time slot for Scout Cabin.
6 hours time period?
Correct. The train station, presents unique circumstances with Public Works because if there's alcohol being served and they're planning on going outside, there needs to be certain fencing that's installed by Public Works. So really it takes away time. If Public Works is doing it during regular hours, it's taking away from time that they could be doing other things.
Who facilitates the rental of the train station? Recreation or the village?
Our village clerk does.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the other difference between the two, is the management of the application process.
So in water tower facility rooms or the Scout Cabin is done by Parks and Rec.
And so the water tower rates are the same as the Scout Cabin rates?
Yes.
So why is the Scout Cabin and the water tower?
I'm sorry. So Scout Cabin is, the unit for Scout Cabin is 6 hours, whereas park rentals or the water tower facility, a unit consists of 2 hours.
I'm confused. So on page 113, at the bottom, it says for park rentals, train station, and water tower facility, a unit consists of 2 hours.
I'm not sure why the train station was included in there.
So that should not
it should
be
be
removed.
removed, yes.
So what is the thinking behind charging per unit for the Scout Cabin and the water tower and per hour for the train station?
Because the train station requires Public Works, whereas the Scout Cabin or water tower requires no public works utilization because it's all enclosed. So it's actually preferred that if someone's going to rent something, that it be the scout cabin, because if someone needs to come in, if public works needs to move benches around within the interior of the train station, either that's at the end of the day, or if they need to come back, if they need to remove it on the exterior of the building, or if they need to put up fencing, all of that is overtime if they need to come.
But when an organization files for a special event permit, one of the things we do is calculate the need for staff time, right?
For
Like whether or not we're going to have to put up fencing, or whether or not the police are going to have to be involved, or something like that.
well, that is for a special event. These are for example, train station rental request. One of them that we've had recently was for a wedding. So we're charging a person the same rate they would as if they were just having a fundraiser that's only going to be 2 hours.
So what about, let's take the hop stop. So that's going to be a special event. So they're going to come in and have a special event application for that. So we'll calculate our staff time, right?
In the past, we have not. Recently, I don't believe we have billed them for any staff time.
I think there just needs to be a differentiation between when we have an event that's open to the public and when someone opens or has an event there that's private. You know,
That's what I'm trying to tease out.
Exactly, because we haven't been requiring a special event application for a private event at the train station, so we get very little information and opportunity to recoup our costs.
I mean, that part I get, but it seems to me if for a special event, you know, like Hop Stop, or the juniors do something, or you know, there's some event like that, our goal is just to make sure we recoup our expenses. And I thought that part of the special event process was we charge people for that. I mean, hasn't that been our practice? Is that, you know, like if we have to have, you know, police presence for, like on the July 3rd, don't we compensate for the police, the extra police and all?
It's a village
It's a village
sponsored event.
It's a village-sponsored event. We did it at one time. Now it's kind of all rolled into the village sponsoring.
So how did the Hop Stop work last year when they used the train station? Because we had to have Public Works come in and put the fencing up because of the alcohol consumption and all.
Right.
Did Hop Stop pay for those costs?
Well, I think typically if Public Works is able to accomplish the extra tasks that need to be done during regular business hours, then we don't charge the nonprofits. That's what we've been doing. We've been trying to cover the cost of it. But for example, when they have to come in for a weekend event to do something, and typically the train station rentals are taking place on Saturdays and Sundays. Like sometimes I go by there and make sure that they're in and they have everything they need and the bathrooms are stacked. You know, Ed Bailey is very good about making sure that the cleaning company comes in, washes the floor. You know, we have to do extra cleaning and extra setup to make sure that it's presentable, because it is a commuter rail station, first and foremost.
Any other questions? Any other person who's wondering about this?
I mean, if the board wants us to have a special classification for the train station rentals, similar to what we have laid out for Scout Cabin for nonprofits.
I guess my only concern is, and you know how I feel about fees. I feel like things like this shouldn't be a profit generator. I totally understand us needing to recoup our expenses. I just wonder if there's a more accurate way of doing that instead of just charging a per hour rate. I mean, can't we wait till after the event and say it cost us this much?
Because then you're adding on additional staff time to then run that calculation, grab those payroll records, and then produce a bill.
I guess my question is, do we want people renting the train station? See, to me, what this is saying is, if you really want to rent it, you can, but you're going to pay for it. We would really rather you rent the water tower and the Scout Cab, because those are more set up for people to rent them, because it's all enclosed, like Jessica said. You can just go to Scout Cabin, have whatever you want, and it's not a big deal. The train station does impinge on other people and on the village, and there's more resources used. So that's what I kind of took from it, was we're actually kind of discouraging it. But if somebody really wants to have a wedding there or something, yes, you can do it. So that's my question, is do we want to encourage it?
There is a safety issue at the train station. I mean, you do have to have the fencing and stuff like that, so there is time. I fall in the same vein that you do. I don't want to hinder, some great outings that we've had in this town by making it too expensive to do it.
And that's fine. I mean, if the board wants it to be that, it's co-sponsored by the village, or that we're absorbing those costs, but at the same time, I don't want staff to feel uncomfortable having to make that call as to whether or not to waive those fees. And I think in the past, we've been somewhat put in that position. And so memorializing a policy and a fee structure, I think is important.
When a special event happens, and when they discuss that, are you going to use the train station, would be one of the questions. And that's part of the whole special use piece. I don't think you'd even have to deal with this as part of that. It'd be a complete separate discussion. They're using the street in between the park and out there.
Well, and for some of the events don't necessarily require a special event application, because they're just specifically utilizing that facility or location. So, and you don't want to necessarily bog down the process of them having to go through the special use either. So either way, I'm fine with it. I just want the board to be aware of it, and thus to memorialize basically our practices in a policy, so that it makes it easier, so that staff isn't on the fence of how to administer certain fee structures.
If we work the same fees, let's just take the train station versus the Scout Cabin. If somebody wants to use the Scout Cabin, basically they just pick up a key and they're done.
For the
Scout Cabin. Mm-hmm. Now, if they do the train station, there's a setup time that's taken to get the train station safe.
Potentially. Depends on what type of event it is.
I'm wondering if there's a fee structure that we could, instead of being by the hour. I mean, if you're going to set the place up at 6 o'clock, and they're going to be there at 8 o'clock, or they're going to be there to 10 o'clock, it doesn't cost us anything more for them to be there the other 2 hours, because we're not going to pull the fences down till Monday anyway. So I'm wondering if your non-for-profit falls into, or any of it falls into a block, because I think we want people to use our facilities. I mean, it's an advertisement for our town. Film crew may want to rent it to use it for food during a movie shoot, hop stop or whatever. I mean, I think we want to encourage people to use that facilities. But again, we want to be able to catch our costs. So I'm wondering if we could do it as a block of time versus hourly. It's just
and part of the discussion that staff had as part of this process is, you have someone that wants to rent it virtually for an entire day for a wedding, versus someone that just wants to rent it for 2 hours for a kid's birthday party. They should not be paying the same exact rate. I mean, there should be a differential between that, because they are in fact utilizing that facility the entire day.
Well, I would assume that if a wedding would also take more time and more staff time to prepare. Someone would have to be on site to receive the chair, someone would have to be on site to make sure there's various things, so the cost would be different.
And just the coordination effort of staff time, I can tell you that our village clerk has spent many hours on phone calls for people trying to coordinate things at the train station.
So, may I ask a question?
Of course.
I'd like to see something set out in here that makes it much clearer, whatever the rates are we decide, that makes it clear what the rate, I cannot find in here, at least not in my packet, these 2 hour, 6 hour, whatever blocks. They're not set out in a chart. I find it very confusing that on the one hand, we say it's $75 an hour or $100 an hour or whatever for the train, and then we also say all rates are for a minimum of 4 hours, which makes it look like the rate is for a 4 hour block. I just don't think it's clearly set out. I think it would be very confusing to put it out the way it's written right now.
Each separate policy has the rates at the end of them, but we can,
Well, I can't find it in mine for the scouts. What page, can you tell me what the page
Bottom of
number is?
113. There's a footnote at the bottom of 113.
Where is the facility rental? Because it says for each event, permittees will be required to complete a special
But that
event
comes after
permit.
train station.
Train station should not be in there.
I know, but it comes after train station, that's what I'm saying, it's very confusing.
It says a special event permit application or facility rental application. But I don't
the
see.
facility rental was included as the application procedure for the train station use. We have not modified that yet. So that is the old application that we currently have.
See, I'm going back to what Trustee Ballerine was talking about. Maybe there's a way of doing this where we, because I think what Ms. Haley is saying, there's a distinct difference between a special event, something that the village is kind of cooperating with at least, or somebody wanting to have a wedding.
Right,
That's
and,
two different.
you know, the liability issue comes into play too, because when we have a special event, like organized by a nonprofit, they typically have nonprofit directors and officers liability insurance. But, you know, when we have someone who's having a private party serving liquor at the train station, it needs to be fenced because that's part of our safety concern. And, you know, they need to provide us with a certificate of liability insurance that shows that their homeowner's policy is going to cover them off-site, and we need to make sure that they hire a caterer who has Bassett training so that they're not over-serving people. And private parties are completely separate from special events. That's my concern.
And
So-
see, and maybe that, I mean, I think this rate structure and all is fine for the private events. It seems like a very reasonable
Right, I agree with
amount.
that, yeah.
But for we want Hop Stop, you know, we want our nonprofits use this, and I think we underutilize the train station. It's a beautiful building, and it's our conduit to the city. And so I don't know. I feel like
We could easily add a definition classification for community events and make it a no charge.
I can't. Have I asked for a motion in a second for this yet?
No.
In that case, we don't need
No,
to
I
table.
don't have one.
Do we want staff to go back based on what we've said and try to work out a way of handling this special event? Because this isn't a pressing issue.
I would make that motion.
Yeah. And I do say I agree with
Ellen?
with Trustee Hamilton. I find it kind of hard to figure out the way this is set out. Maybe it's because it's all run together, but
You know, part of it was, I think Parks and Rec already had this rate structure. They have been operating that way, and they had no burning desire to change it. So it's not like it was created the same way the train station one was.
so you kind of get the gist of what we want. Okay, so we'll revisit this.
Because I mean, to me, if we're trying to recoup the setup and the tear down, then we have a setup and tear down charge.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm thinking.
And that goes to what you said, whether you're there for 2 hours or 10 hours. The guys come up, set it up, and the guys
Tear it down.
tear it down, and if we need someone there monitoring it, then that's included as well, I think.
So we don't need a motion?
No.
We can just...
No, just
we'll
general
come back
directive
and
for
talk
staff
about
to
it.
bring it back,
Okay,
consistent with the discussion.
okay.
And then remember, you still have that one item you pulled off the, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I'm sorry.
So do that under considerations or new business? Or just?
Or under considerations, we can do it now.
I'm glad you're still here. Under the minutes of the Safe Environment Commission, District 96, Blythe School Principal, Mrs. Gorman, came in front of this SCC to talk about adding a 5th crosswalk over on Kent and Leasley and eliminating a mid-block crosswalk on Kent. You know, it went to a couple of their commission, it went to their commission meeting twice. Once they didn't They were trying to figure out whether they should move one crosswalk, keep both crosswalks, whether, you know, everyone was on board. I personally think that this crosswalk issue, even though I do believe that they did a very good job working with it, I think this is what we have, these folks there. I mean, we're hiring a professional to make a traffic study. I think we should hold off putting any crosswalks in until after we get a professional traffic study going around our schools and telling us exactly what is needed and what's not needed before we spend $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 putting a new crosswalk and, you know, upsetting an area.
Chief Weitzel, do you have an opinion on that?
I was involved in that to an extent. It did come, the original request came from District 96. We did bring it to the Safe Environment Commission, like Trustee said, twice. They did recommend that the crosswalk be put in. That's the Safe Environment Commission. I believe it came back to the manager and board level. Nothing has been done as of yet. There is a resident that is in disagreement with that because a tree would need to come down directly in front of her home that she says she likes and provides shade for their residents and other aesthetics that she likes for the tree. So she has written a letter to the village asking us to postpone it, and she would like to come to the Safe Environment Commission meeting, have another meeting, and present their case as to why there should not be a crosswalk there. If our traffic engineering company could include that in this study to some extent, that would, I think, alleviate a lot of problems because they're professionals. The Safe Environment Commission took their opinions from staff, from District 96, from the Safe Environment Commission themselves, and from the Public Works Director. Certainly, we're not traffic engineering professionals. We looked at it as a child pedestrian safety issue because of the District 96 school, Blythe Park School. That was our angle when we were looking at it. So she felt a little bit disconnected because she didn't know about the issue before it came to the board and the Safe Environment Commission. So I think it would be prudent to maybe ask them to include that in their study and go back, because I think that would satisfy both the residents and I think it would satisfy the board. We get a clean look from an independent company that's professionally designed to do that. So I personally would agree with that.
I would support that too, because they may come up with something regarding all of the crosswalks over there after they have a chance to look at it holistically, right?
Right, and if that's the board, if that's the direction of the board wants, I would reach back out to that resident and notify them that we wouldn't need to schedule another Safe Environment Commission meeting. We would wait until our professional traffic engineer group included that in the study.
Mr. Worthman, not to put you on the spot, but do you remember, are you paying particular attention to the areas around our schools?
We are.
Could you please come up to the microphone?
We are to a certain extent, and if there's some hot spots, we'll take a look at it. What we will do is we'll look at where the crosswalks are, how they're striped now, and more importantly, how the signage is. But this is something we can fall in under that to say, hey, we took a special look at this one location and throw it into the study. It shouldn't be a big issue.
I take it there's unanimity on this? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Trustee Ballerine, for bringing that up.
So, and then there should be, it doesn't really affect the discussion, but there should be a motion and a second to accept the file and review of the Safe Environment Commission meeting minutes of September 16, 2016.
So moved.
By Mr. Ballerine, second by Ms. Collins. Please call the roll on that motion.
Trustee Ballerine.
Aye.
Trustee Collins.
Aye.
Trustee Lumsden.
Aye.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Hamilton.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any new business this evening? We do have need for an executive session to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the village and to discuss pending or imminent litigation. So with that in mind, I'd ask for motion to adjourn to executive session, not to reconvene. No final action will be taken.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Hamilton, second by Mr. Lumsden. Please call the roll.
Trustee Ballerine.
Aye.
Trustee Collins.
Aye.
Trustee Lumsden.
Aye.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Hamilton. Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Good night.